Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Anarchy podcast. I'm your host, Super, and here with me we have Killet. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right today. It's a nice day outside for where I'm from.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna just say some things and get right into it. So, for one, why did you come on the podcast?
Well, I've always wanted to document what I've done on TV. I think it's somewhat of an interesting story, and I was planning on doing something similar to this on my own channel, so might as well just let someone else do all the work. Am I right?
Yeah. And speaking of your life on Tubi, can you give us like a summary of it from your start to where you are now?
Good summary. I started out with Highland. Was probably a really bad decision, but I feel like a lot of people start with Highland and then realize that there's more out there besides Highland. Moved on to the Order of Lucifer. Everyone was under the impression that I was female at the time. Then I moved on with the Order of Lucifer, talking to Tavix, got rid of PK, and then moved with the Imperium, destroyed Infrared, got involved with Voco. A few dupes came by here and there, a few temp maps as well. All started in the summer, I believe, June 2017. And after destroying Infrared like 4 times, I think that puts us to where we are today.
It's quite
For
a
a brief
story.
summary.
That's quite a bit of achievements you've collected over the years, have it?
A few here and there, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone's got to leave their mark somehow. But with you saying you inciting infrared, destroying groups, getting to their core, like you just sort of described, don't you think a lot of people will hate you for that?
I've got some hate from certain groups, but then again, there are a lot of groups that do enjoy my presence and consider me an ally. For instance, Imperium is one of my allies I would like to consider, and Infrared is a group that most of their members probably dislike me, and feelings mutual. So
Really? So do you feel like it's not a problem if they don't like you? So would you consider yourself someone who doesn't care about other people's opinions?
for the most part, yes. There are a few select opinions that I do value. As long as I'm on the winning side in the end, I feel like that's all that matters. I consider it Infrared and Inferno and anyone on their associations, including the Peacekeepers, Highland, any of those groups I would consider to be on the losing side of the large war that is, I guess, just never ending on 2B.
Wow, that's quite a lot. A lot of people know you from being infamous for doing that stuff, so it's good to know the insight of it. Anyway, to go on to another subject, the Order of Lucifer. Can you give us a rundown of really what that was? Because it's been mentioned on this channel a couple times before, but I don't know if a lot of our viewers even know what it was. So can you give us a little rundown of it?
Well, it started about 2016. It wasn't under the name The Order of Lucifer, but basically a few players, Dom, 2789, Sick Beats, Black Cooper, all came together and said, you know what, we enjoy building together, and just kind of started hanging out a lot more than just as regular players on 2B. They started building bases together. Panda Sauce was also with them. They built stashes with Panda Sauce. And then time came where they decided to betray PK, destroyed a lot of their stashes, a lot of their bases, essentially just said, screw everything, and dipped out of there and made their own little group, named it the Order of Lucifer, and started recruiting members from there. And I actually ended up joining the Order of Lucifer when I was at Spawn on my Spawn account, which at the time was under the name Killet. I ended up losing that name later on due to my own ignorance, but I met them at Spawn when they were placing pig spawners everywhere, because at the time pig spawners were, you could just pull them out of a hopper under a shulker and place them and then leave them and they'll stay there. And the pig highway was just a highway full of pig spawners, and that's what the Order of Lucifer did. They built a giant highway from about 0 to 1,000 X positive, full of just pig spawners and grass, of course, and some light sources. But
Jesus, that's that's a lot of pigs.
a lot of pigs, and it was mainly to flaunt their wealth.
Yeah,
But
a lot of groups on 2B, taunt a lot of other groups with their wealth and their mass collection of items. Nevertheless, um, with all of your explanation in this, you've mentioned you're toying with people, whether it be tricking somebody who's to make them think that you are a girl, um, and apparently you've tricked people into thinking that you've left 2B. So is that true?
Well, I mean, a lot of times when I say I'm leaving 2B2T, I do mean it. I intend on leaving 2B. I don't ever end up leaving 2B, obviously, or else I wouldn't be
2B quits
sitting. Yeah, I mean, but now I feel like I'm at a point where I really have quit it, and I've stopped playing for a while, and I think I'm in a good situation where I just don't want to play anymore because it's not fun. Other times I've quit because I wanted to avoid the toxicity, or I had other things going on in my life and I didn't really have time for 2B, but I somehow found a way to make time for 2B. One time I really quit for a long time was when everyone found out that I wasn't a girl, and then I was kind of just like, I went off on my own, did my own stuff with a few people who still thought I was female and just screwed with them for a while. You know, it's just, I guess I did it mainly for the items and the stashes, if you're wondering why. It worked. I got into a lot of groups. I got my fingers in all the pies I could, pies being groups. I was in a lot of groups at the time. I was in as many as I possibly could be. I'm talking Top Keck, Team Keki, just the list is endless. The Vortex Coalition, Imperium, Order of Lucifer.
That's quite a list, quite a lot of achievements, like I've said before. Um, anyway, with you saying that you've left 2B, is it because of the toxicity of the player base now with other groups such as Voco, Imperium, Vortex, all those people becoming more, I wouldn't say toxic, but becoming, I'd say. But do you think it's because of that, or do you believe that the old days of 2B were better?
I think the old days of 2B were better. I don't. And when I say the old days, I don't necessarily mean like before the Russia War when no one really played. I mean, there were good times on 2B's history, and there was bad times in 2B's history. I feel like all the incursions have been very successful and fun for most of the players involved, except for the 7th incursion. I feel like the 7th incursion was an absolute failure, and I don't think the 8th incursion is going to be able to hold up to it when it comes time for that. Now, but I think 2B was in its prime 2017 and 2016. But, I mean, things change, and some are for the better, some are for the worse. But I just think it's gotten to a point where a lot of the newer players don't entirely understand 2B's culture, and they misinterpret it, and then they just, and I'm not sure entirely how to put it, but it's just seeing a lot of new players here. It disgusts me almost. I mean, some are chill, some you can talk to, some you can tolerate, some you'll even invite to your main stashes, but others are just ignorant and like 12.
Yeah, you know, with all that Russia fiasco, it brought a lot of people, and even now it is, but obviously less so. But there's still a lot of toxic people on 2B, as with any other community.
I wouldn't say it's mainly the toxicity that gets me. The toxicity isn't too bad. You know, that's actually the main reason why a lot of the player base plays it. It's mainly the toxicity around the PvP community that's changed quite a bit.
Easy.
Yeah, easy. That's a good representation of toxicity amongst the PvP community. Because normally it was like, you know, you would come to spawn. Not many people understood crystals at the time, so you'd fight. Maybe you'd get a kill. Maybe you wouldn't. But if you got killed, it's like, oh well, and the person would say good fight, and you know, it was a really genuine experience. But now it's gotten to the point where people say easy, ironically and unironically, and I think it's just toxic and retarded. But it's my personal opinion. Of course, some people do think it's fun going to spawn with endless amounts of gear and fighting until your chest runs out, aka like 48 hours straight of fighting.
Yeah, so some of them get to be like that. You know what I mean? With a lot of 2B things, there's always, you know, dupes and all that. What do you think has been the easiest dupe to do? And what I mean by that is, the book dupe, the donkey dupe, or past dupes like the 1111?
Oh, well, obviously the crafting dupe. The crafting dupe was the simplest dupe.
Oh
You
yes,
would take,
definitely.
you'd take a stack of wood, turn it into wooden planks, and then you would just spam click on an item after you dropped. So you'd find an item you want. You could even take like a sword, for instance. You'd drop it, and then you'd spam click on an item in the crafting GUI until the item picked back up in your inventory. And when you picked it back up, it'd be a stack of swords or a stack of diamond blocks, and all you had to do was drop one. And sometimes it would even go to like 128 until Housemaster patched the whole 128. It would only go up to 64. Now, there was no way for you to preserve it if it went to 128, because you're not able to put that into any storage containers. If you shift clicked it into a container, it would make two separate stacks. It wouldn't go past 64.
Yeah, things are a lot different now. Uh, with your time on 2B, how long has it been?
It's been since June 2017, so almost, I'd say almost 2 years.
Cool. Do you feel like your time on 2B has been satisfactory? What I mean by that is, are you content with 2B and Anarchy in general, as it's changing by the month with new dupes and new exploits and new everything, but do you feel like your time with Anarchy has been fun?
Most definitely fun. It's had its ups and downs. There have been points where you've spent hours and hours on a base, and then boom, it's gone the next day, and can't really do much about that. But overall, as an experience, I think 2B2T has had a very positive presence in my life. It's definitely changed my life as a whole, and not like changed the way my life's going to be executed, but there's no way I'm going to forget what happened on 2B. I'm always going to have that thought in my head, and I don't even think I could. There's never going to be a point where I just stop talking to people from 2B. I've tried to do it before. I can't. I've claimed I'm going to be like deleting my Discord account, and I'll change my name to deleted user, but I don't ever actually delete my Discord account. I can't do that. I've got too much information on it.
With you obviously leaving 2B and quitting the scene, do you think you're going to go to other Anarchy servers like 9B, Constantium, Anarchy MC?
I can't stand other Anarchy servers, and my reason being is they don't have the same history 2B does. Constantium sort of does, but it's not the same. There hasn't been 200,000 players on Constantium like there has been on 2B, and you can't head out to the millions and find a random location and maybe find a base. It doesn't happen. There also isn't really highways on Constantium very much. I mean, there are highways that go out pretty far, but there aren't constant maintenance on the highways. They don't go out with obsidian all the way to 30 million. Of course, they don't do that on 2B, but they do go out pretty far with obsidian because of the amount of people that do work on them. Like, for instance, the spawn infrastructure group, the X positive diggers, the X minus diggers, the highways go out in every direction on 2B to at least 100,000. I think they've mined them all the way out to the world border on each axis, including the diagonals, but I'm not entirely sure on that. All I know is that you just can't find things like that on other Anarchy servers. You can try, and there will be similar things, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I can understand. Like 2B has a sort of homeliness and a safety towards it that other servers don't, or not necessarily that actually, but just it's way more developed. Anyway, do you see your time with Minecraft going in the same direction? Like, do you think you're gonna go on factions or single player or whatever the hell?
Well, when I started playing 2B initially, this most recent time, I started playing factions, and I played on Psycho PvP with a few friends. Now, that was fun and all, but I don't see myself constantly doing that. I don't see myself playing a bunch of factions or anything else. Like, I've not opened Minecraft on my desktop since sometime November. Like, I just am not touching Minecraft. Not because I'm telling myself I don't want to. I just genuinely don't feel the need to. For instance, I could open it up now. It's not like I'm trying to keep myself from doing that. Any kind of like New Year's resolution or anything like, I don't want to play Minecraft because it revolves around 2B and 2B's toxic. It's just, I haven't. It's not fun. I don't have anything urging me to do so.
So it's sort of like lost its magic for you?
That's definitely a good way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed that with a lot of 2B2T players or ex-2B2T players such as Tyler Coolman. Um, he's come on and said that the magic of 2B has lost over the couple of years that he's been on. There was the golden age, and now it's just toxicity.
I see that, and I mean, um, eventually the Order of Lucifer. Touching back on that, that's what when I was in the Order of Lucifer, I consider that to be the golden age. But eventually, all things come to an end, and once they found out that I was a dude, my friends from the Order of Lucifer were like, "Oh man, you lied to us. We're not very chill anymore." But then there were those few friends who were like, "Man, I don't fucking care what you are. I just want to play Minecraft." Jaeger's a good example of that. Jaeger's one of my closer friends who I've stashed with. Um, but the 2B definitely had its golden age, and that's not there anymore, as far as I see.
Do you think 2B is gonna come to the sort of popularity that it once was? Now, obviously, it's still stupid popular with thousands coming on each week, but do you feel like it's gonna rise again?
Um, I mean, I feel like it will have another spike or a few spikes, like multiple other YouTubers joining. But as far as will the culture be back? I mean, I don't really know where I was going with that, but I just don't see 2B returning to what it would be in my eyes. Now, to other players, it might return to what they once saw it as, and it might be fun for them again, but I don't see it becoming fun for me again. I do see the player base getting really, really high again if another YouTuber makes a video on it. For instance, there are Minecraft YouTubers still out there to this day making videos, and if they were to just make a video on 2B, the player base would once again spike.
Just kaboom.
Right.
Yeah. Now, throughout this, I've sort of gotten the impression, and throughout your history of saying this, that you're sort of a troll on 2B.
Troll. I wouldn't say troll. I've done some. I've screwed around. I like to screw around.
Okay, yeah.
I take things serious when they need to be taken serious, but I will screw around a little bit here and there. For instance, a lot of people see me as sketchy. That's one thing I've heard a ton. I don't see it myself, but they say I've got a sketchy voice when I'm doing stuff with them. One bad habit of mine, for instance, is if I've got a stash with someone and they say something stupid that I don't like, or they do something I don't like, I'll be like, I'm gonna leak the stash, and then they instantly like, kind of like get defensive. Now, of course, I understand why. Like I just said I was gonna leak their fucking stash, but I would never actually do it, and there's no real way to tell with me because I'm always screwing around, and that's the main reason why people call me sketchy. That's the main reason why people might call me a troll or that I screw around a lot, is because I do. I genuinely do. I just when I need to be serious, I will. There've been serious operations, for instance, the Peacekeepers, Infrared, and many griefs or anything where there's like stakes on the line. I'll chill out, I'll act serious, and we'll get shit done.
So you can put on a face.
For sure.
Awesome.
That's the way to put it.
Now with all your fuckery on 2B, do you think you can compare yourself now? Obviously, this is a very big jump for some people to think of, but maybe do you think of yourself as a lesser Jared?
Oh no, for sure not. Because see, the difference between me and Jared is Jared's more of a looser person. He would, if he had a big stash, he'd be willing to leak that on an instant. He wouldn't just say he would leak it. I would say I would leak it, and I definitely wouldn't unless the person provoked me to do so. But Jared would no doubt leak it for any source of information. He's like a trigger happy, loose. I have no idea what to call him, but he's definitely trigger happy. That's a way to put it.
So you think of him as not the best person?
I mean, our relationship, me and Jared, is kind of neutral to a point where I trapped him a while back, like hardcore. If you were to ask him, he would consider us dating. Now, he claims that throughout the whole thing, he was just screwing with me, but the DMs prove otherwise, or suggest otherwise in my book. But either way, if me and Jared were to speak, we don't have a hostile attitude towards each other. We also don't have like a friendly attitude towards each other. It's kind of just like, I don't see him as an enemy. I don't see him as a friend. I see him that we are both on opposite sides of the never-ending war that is 2B22.
Well, that's quite a bold statement to make. It's quite noble, or not necessarily noble, but wise. But nevertheless, how do you think? Speaking of other players on 2B, how do you think of other players who keep playing and don't are they're just not going to stop because it's 2B? Do you feel like they're childish, or do you think it's the rush of 2B is always going to be there?
I mean, I think the rush of 2B is always going to be there for them, and power to them. I wish I could still enjoy 2B the way I used to. Like, if I were still able to hop on, play with all my Order of Lucifer buddies, or maybe even if Emperor, the leader of the Imperium, would trust me as much as he would if I didn't screw around as much, then I'd probably still be playing and having fun with the people. But the thing is, that's never going to be there. That's never going to happen because I do screw around too much. That's just how it is. And it's not that I'm not going to change that either, because I would rather not get access to huge stashes that other people make and huge bases and screw around and have fun with my time on 2B than be hardcore, serious 2B2T veteran over here, not screwing around whatsoever, just making legitimate bases and making sure they don't get griefed. Like, that's how I see things.
Cool, cool. Wow, cool. Going to more 2B stuff. I know there's a lot to do with 2B, but that's a lot of your history. And bases. Do you feel like a lot of bases get destroyed because of the people themselves and insiding?
A lot of times, it's not necessarily inciting. It's people being ignorant and just making bad decisions. And I can attest to this because I've lost quite a few bases. Two in specific, two more recent bases were Fallout base. Fallout base was a giant vault. It was Vault 007. It was basically a Fallout vault, and we were rebuilding it into Minecraft and on 2B. And it was Vault 007, which was never a Fallout vault. It was never a canon vault. But we were just going to build a giant vault underground, and it turned into a dupe stash. And it was me, AIDS Cancer, and Papa Jaeger all basing there. Also, Blank Zero was basing there. But he's a lesser known 2B2T player. And, well, essentially, Cancer is coming to the base. AIDS Cancer. And once he gets near the base, you know, I'm like, okay, I'll open up the portal for you. I will set up a portal, go through it. I'll leave it there. You come through, and then I'll break the portal from both sides. He comes through the portal, and essentially, I didn't break the portal. It was open for less than 12 hours. Someone found the portal on the other side of the highway and went through it, destroyed the base, woke up the next day, and everything's gone.
You know,
Another example.
People make mistakes every day.
Right, it happens all the time, and that was mainly my fault, me losing the base there. And another example of a base is the Lucifer base. Lucifer base was all of the members of the Order of Lucifer, all the ex-members saying, you know what, we're going to come back, we're going to make a big base, and it's going to be fun. It was me, all the heads of Lucifer, and Tyler had coordinates because Dom is retarded and decided it'd be a good idea to give Tyler coordinates. Now, he didn't tell us Tyler had coordinates until we had already mined out a gigantic hole. There was a huge hole in the ground. And it was a big circle, just a giant hole all the way from bedrock to where the terrain is.
Wow.
We started mining that out, and there was also a giant stash there. We had been stashing there since the start of the dupe, and the dupe had been going on for like a month now. This is the book dupe, the most recent dupe, and it was a huge base. And then Dom tells us, yeah, I gave Tyler coordinates and told him we might be basing there in the future, and he has coordinates. But I don't think he like saved them or anything, and I deleted them. And we knew that he had coordinates. We took the risk, but Tyler then gave Jared coordinates and sent Jared to grief it for him. And that was the end of that base because we knew that Tyler had coordinates and we took the risk.
Well, like I said, man, shit happens every day.
Right.
Yeah. I think that might come to not an end, but can we get a few things from you just to say to the people watching the Anarchy podcast? Anything they'd want to know about you? Do you think?
Um, I mean, me personally, I feel like I'm a very open person, and if they were to ask, I would be very open about it. I don't think there's too much that people necessarily wonder about me or anything like that. But I guess I could end it off with a bit of advice as far as 2B2T goes. I mean, if you're playing on 2B and you enjoy your time on 2B, definitely don't let it get ahead of you. Enjoy it while it lasts. And don't screw over your friends because they're all you have on 2B. There's nothing else there. You might think, oh man, if I screw them over, I get a huge stash out of it. I get a big base. I get clout points, and people start to look up to me. But once you screw over those friendships and those connections, all you've got is digital items. You have nothing real. There's nothing tangible there.
Yeah, it's just pixels.
In the end, it is just pixels.
Yes, it is really just pixels, and I think we'll end off with that. We thank you very much for watching the Anarchy podcast. I've been your host, Super. With me, we've had Killet, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.